Hey, AfterBuzzers, hang out with us. We're going to talk all things American Crime, Season 3, Episode 6, and we have some special guests, and that's plural guests. Yes.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AfterBuzz TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Oh, I love the lights.
Yes. You guys know every time Mickaëlle comes, she gets music choice. This is your boy J Balvin, right?
Y'all
Yes, J
gotta check him out. He has like over a continent.
Over 500 million views on
They have
YouTube.
one J Balvin.
It's rocking.
Wow.
I never knew her. I never heard about the guy until you mentioned him. But apparently he's huge.
He's huge.
Hey, I like it too.
It's good. It's good music. I like it.
It is.
It's cool.
It's a great way to start for such a somber episode.
It was.
Guys, how much more depth
It
we gonna
was.
have? Hi, AfterBuzzers. I'm Erica Jaye Green, and welcome to American Crime After Show. This is Season 3, Episode 6, and you can find me on social media. Everything, Erica Jaye Green, and that's everything. Social, Facebook, Twitter, whatever.
Is that on Black Planet too?
BlackPlanet.com.
I got rid of that.
I gotta get rid of my account.
Like
I gotta get rid of my account.
Ago.
Y'all remember Black Planet though?
Yes.
I don't know about it.
I met one of my best friends.
JJ's still on MySpace.
Black-
Why he trying to?
Black
Where can they find you at,
MySpace
JJ?
was popping back
Besides
then, all right?
MySpace,
Anyway,
where can they
but
find
big-
you?
Hey, listen,
Brutal.
you guys can
Where'd I go?
find me all over social media at JJ the Talented, and check out my website joshuajohnson.tv.
Oh.
Listen,
Oh my
Listen.
God. She said MySpace.
And we have some wonderful guests in studio with us, and we would love to know where we can find you at in the beginning, and we're going to chat with them later, but let's see where we can find y'all at.
Twitter, I'm Mickaëlle Bizet, and Instagram, the French Black Girl. Y'all already know.
she posted like
Yes.
every 2 seconds.
And one of the writers of this episode.
Yes, Steve Harper. You can find me at Harper Creates on
Nice.
Twitter and at Your Creat V Life, which is sort of your creative life without the E because it didn't fit on Twitter. So
Okay.
those are my two Twitter handles.
I love it. And we're going to talk about that
great.
more later. We're going to get into more about your personal life and about the show. We just want to know it all from
How
you.
personal you trying to get?
Really
Did
personal.
we prep them?
How do we do on AfterBuzz? We get real personal.
Okay.
So let's just jump into the episode today, which was so much going on. You know, sometimes we come in here, I'm like, okay, well, this episode has just a little bit going on. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about that. But this episode was packed. Literally
I
packed.
cannot believe I did not see that coming. I did not see any of that coming.
I'm glad to hear you say it was packed though, because every week I talk to my parents. My father keeps threatening to leave the room. He's like, "There's not enough action," and he's getting ready to walk out. And then, of course, the last 5 minutes every week
Something.
we do
Yes,
something.
right.
Yes. No,
Something
and I say that
happens.
because, like, while I'm watching, like, of course, I'm, like, jotting down notes and stuff, and I was like, ooh, I'm eating my popcorn.
It's
I'm like,
too
ooh.
much to do it at the same time with this episode.
Yeah, it was a lot.
Yeah.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. So we can just go ahead and start off with Gabrielle's character, since we do have the actress who plays her back in the studio. She's our honorary host, guys,
She's
because we
always-
are down one now.
Always. She's part of the family now.
Yeah,
As
she
well as
loves
she should be.
our
Oh,
ABT
thank
now.
you.
Yes,
Yeah.
and we love you.
I
we
love
really
it here,
do.
okay? I'm obsessed.
Mickaëlle X Bizet.
Yes.
I said it right?
Yes.
I said
He's
it right.
been practicing
I've been
Very
that.
good,
practicing
Wait
very
a minute,
good.
he's been practicing that.
Oh, thank you, Josh.
In the mirror every morning. With my affirmations.
I love being Mary Jane on the.
I know, right?
I
Right.
can't with you. So we start off this episode with you writing a letter to your son, your character writing a letter to your son, and we really haven't got into that backstory of what's going on with you, why you're not being able to visit or talk to your son. They give us like little clips about it. You say little things about it. He doesn't write you back, but I don't know. Are we ever going to see that? I know there's only so much you can tell us, but
I had a similar question on the podcast today. They wanted to know, so why am I not in touch with my family? Well, Gabrielle's not in touch with her family. And I mean, there's no details. Everybody goes through things with their family and with their family, and you try to mend things, but it's hard to communicate sometimes, and you just kind of give up. Because she used to write those letters, but she never got a response. You know, she says that. And but in that episode, she mails the letters somewhere.
Yeah.
Twitter says maybe the Popo.
But she also said she sends those letters to God.
Well, she writes them to
Writes
God.
them to
she
God.
says.
Right. In the absence of a response from her son.
But but I didn't know she sent them at all. It didn't seem like she sent them at all
No,
until she did in the episode. Or was she sending
No,
them the
she
whole
wasn't.
time?
No,
She
she
wasn't
wasn't
sending
sending
them.
them.
She wasn't
No,
sending them,
no, she
right?
wasn't.
No.
She
Yeah.
wasn't. She
Until
was.
that
It was
moment
just
we
like
saw it.
therapy
That's what I
kind
thought.
of for
Yeah,
her.
exactly.
You know.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay.
See, I'm always looking for like little nuances when I'm watching American Crime.
You have
stuff,
to.
little crumbs
Yeah.
that y'all are gonna feed
Yeah.
us. And so when I'm looking at that that storyline, I'm trying to think what's the importance of why they keep showing us this broken relationship. And maybe there's some truth to what Claire's saying with you hurting yourself, or what is there like a bigger reason to why we're seeing that? I don't know. What do you think about that whenever you're watching those scenes when they go back foreshadowing?
I wouldn't
Her side.
necessarily link the cutting that Claire talked about with anything to do with her son per se. I wouldn't link those two. I thought they were two separate issues.
If there is cutting, because I mean, for me, I thought that the whole story was made up. Personally, I thought that because there's something so shady about Claire's character, and since we're talking about Gabrielle,
It is.
and exactly the way she like is all up in your business. I literally wrote that down. She's all
Right.
up in your
Yes.
business.
She's intrusive.
Why are you trying to figure out what she's writing? If someone's writing a letter, it's not a letter to you. Why do you need to know what they're writing? You know,
Right,
I don't
sure.
get that.
You know, it's weird. Like when shooting it, and it's before everybody started saying, "Oh, Claire is so intrusive." I didn't see it like that.
Really?
So I guess
Wow.
it took me a while to get out of Gabrielle. You know what I mean? I don't know if you
sure.
guys wanted Gabrielle to see it like that, but I didn't see it like that for a long time. You know, to me, I was just like, okay, you know, like, and it's just recently that I'm like, oh, she nosy as hell. Like,
Well, I knew something was wrong with Claire when she reprimanded you for Nikki hitting you. So
well,
then we had some indication like, okay, this isn't a good situation.
And that was a big
But-
bulk of the episode. The storyline this episode, yeah.
Right, but then the fact that Claire is saying the hitting is happening, I mean the cutting is happening, but the thing is we haven't seen any indication of anything else. So it's like, what do we believe then?
So to me, that's the fun of the show. I
Yeah.
mean, even before I was on the show, I feel like there's a mystery to everybody in the world,
Right.
Yeah.
And so I feel like it all comes down from John Ridley, who's just brilliant.
Yes.
We could talk about him for days.
Yeah.
And I hope we get an opportunity to talk a lot about him because it all comes out of his amazing brain.
Yeah.
But I think part of what he's doing, part of what we're doing in helping him tell this story, is we're enhancing the mystery of everybody. You know, like I could look at you and be like, "Well, what's up with that blouse? Like, why did you? What's up with red? Why is she wearing red today?"
It's pink.
You know, or whatever.
It's Easter.
Yeah. So, but I feel like that's the driving force of what I think makes viewers come back every week because they're all, you know, as I'm live tweeting, I'm seeing them go, "Well, what's up with this?" or "How
Right.
blah blah blah," and then suddenly like,
Yeah.
"Oh no, I can't believe blah blah."
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and to me, that's the fun of the show. That's the fun of what we're trying to do.
And I understand that, I do. But why in this
But I want
situation?
answers.
But why in this situation would you didn't give us any indication of anything happening? And I thought you would. I thought there
Yes.
would be more of this episode about what is happening to Claire. But then the only thing we have is that she's cutting herself, but we don't believe it.
Well, some
But you
people
didn't
do.
tell us. You didn't give us any hint at anything else.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: when you look at people's lives in real, like I was a teacher, and kids would come, you know, looking depressed or what, and we would make assumptions like, what's
You don't
going
know.
on with
You
that
make
kid?
You make up stuff.
You know, is that kid depressed or is
Yeah.
it just sad today?
Yes.
You keep trying to figure it out. You keep trying to put two and two together with the information that you get in front of you in life. We do this all the time.
Exactly.
The show is
Yeah.
doing that.
Yeah.
I thought you duped us a little bit though, Steve.
Do you
duped
think so?
us
He's so mad.
I know.
JJ came over here
He's
crying.
like that, but he's watching every word, right?
Because the way that Lily is playing that character, she's playing it that something else is behind the scenes going on. That she's playing it that way. So it would only lead us to think that story is not truthful. That's me. You don't believe that story either, right?
I just want to say this. I read a couple articles because again, sometimes I'm stumped about what's going on, and
Right.
I'm really good at figuring things out. My mom's a detective, and I'm an actress, so I'm good at like figuring shows out. And I like
Right.
I'm always telling them like I already know this is
Right.
happening,
Uh-huh.
and I usually can figure it
Yeah,
out. And
I
that
get
is
it.
what I love about American Crime. But I did read, so I read articles just to get a little feeling of kind of my fillers.
Sure.
And I read something in an article that said that Claire almost dehumanizes Gabrielle's character. And how do you feel like that is something, an accurate statement that comes into play? Because she when after I read that, I was like, definitely. She's putting her hands on her. She's all up in her business. Takes her
took her
passport, took her
passport.
Yes,
security. To
right.
me, that was more than just taking a passport. That was taking her security. So you can't go anywhere unless you come to me first. And that, I don't like that. I don't like that.
Yeah.
Now I see it, but I swear to you, when I was shooting, I wasn't feeling all that stuff. I was just feeling the internal, like, what's going on? This is not feeling right.
Yes.
You know, like
Yeah.
I was just in the moment. Now when I watch it with the world, I'm like, it's like an abuser.
I wish we didn't tell you because I love how you're playing it. You're playing so innocent, this doughy eye coming from, this is how someone would feel. I can feel that
and
when
I
I'm watching your
did not do that on purpose.
Yeah.
And you know who really helped me? And I don't even think she realized how much she helped me, because I hear people say, "Oh, great performance." I'm like, Lily Taylor.
Oh, she's amazing.
Listen,
She's amazing.
I could put you on set with her, and you're gonna be Gabrielle. You're gonna be Gabrielle in a second.
I love it. I love it.
The way she is, you're gonna be Gabrielle.
Yes.
Like there was no other way for me to
choice.
be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just reacted to her, So I'm like, my performance is basically Lily's performance. I just like responded. She's so freaking good. There's no way not to feel something when she's in the character. You know what I mean?
There's something amazing too. Again, to go back to the mind of John Ridley, because we started the season, and he and Michael McDonald sort of plan out what's happening in the series, right? So day 2, most shows you'll be on the show and you'll spend some time like figuring out what the plot line is. John Ridley came in with an outline. Like,
The whole season?
Of the whole season.
Stop.
Serious. The man knew where he was going.
Yeah.
And we had a couple of articles to read, and we had a couple of books to read.
Really?
Yeah. One book called Tomatoland.
Okay, that I know. I knew.
Which you knew about, by a guy named Barry Estabrook.
He's giving you homework.
He's giving us homework. Okay. Absolutely. And Tomatoland is all about migrant workers and tomato fields and how they're treated, and you see how that.
See, we said that they bring in relevant topics.
Right.
I knew that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the other book, I don't know if this is a spoiler or not, but the other book is called The Slave Next Door. And it's all about...
Lily, I heard that from Lily.
Does that relate to the au pair situation?
It relates to this situation. That Gabrielle is
You're
in.
happy now?
Yeah, okay.
That book is
I'll
by
read that book tonight before next
a
episode.
guy named Kevin Bales and Ron Sudalter.
Kevin Bales, Ron
and just
Sudalter.
fascinating about how, and so interesting for me to hear you talk about like being in it and not really thinking about it, because that's, the statistics say that this happens to people who, in some other part of their life would have agency, would have, and the character of Gabrielle, so dependent on, on this family.
Right.
And also, to be there, to be in the United States, to be moving her life ahead.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that in the mix.
Oh my God! Like my mind is blown. You guys are good. Because like
I'm so glad that we're being able to, because it was a large, like I said, it was a large bulk of tonight's episode was this interaction between Gabrielle and Claire and everything that's going on within this family, since they did just introduce these characters, the whole family to us an episode ago. So it's great that we're really diving into their situation. But while we're talking about Claire, let's talk about what's going on with the dynamic between her husband,
Nicholas.
played by Nicholas, played by Tim Sutton.
This dude is angry.
Exactly.
He is super resentful. We touched on it last week.
Yeah, everything. But we see it kind of blowing up in this episode.
Right.
We see he's having a lot of resentment, throwing shade at her. Just to me, not being a supportive spouse at all. And we talked about that, the dynamic between husbands and wives and stuff like that, different relationships and communication.
There was a couple times this episode where I thought, in my mind, he was going to get physical, because he is doing great at that brooding kind of character that's he's just one step away from just exploding. So the time when he confronted the lady at work, the time when he was playing pool, the time when she kind of berated him about the not being able to have a baby, like those were the times I thought this guy was going to get physical with her, because just everything that had been kind of building up in him.
But not only that, I low-key thought that he was getting physical with Gabrielle. I thought that was what was going to come full circle.
When I first came in through,
I'm done with you.
People thought that.
I'm not listening to y'all anymore, because y'all are coloring everything. Because y'all post stuff and I'm reading it and I'm like, ooh, yeah, that's going to happen. And I thought that he was going to get physical. I don't know what I read about, but I thought he was going to he was getting physical with you. And we still don't know.
Act like Steve
we still don't know.
Not leading us. Don't act like you're not leading us with some of that writing to make us think that.
Well, here's
you're
the
manipulating
thing.
us.
Here's the
we're
thing.
never seeing.
Again, though,
having the writer here is the best.
I know. I love it.
I'm not allowed to say
preview.
anything. No, I'm not.
Even the preview of this episode from last week, like you had this hand. I remember a hand on the doorpost with the blood. Didn't you see that?
Yeah. And
I thought some beating was going on.
And usually whenever from my experience watching TV shows, especially dramas, if someone is self-abusing themselves, they try to show that infliction because there's something powerful in showing a person self-inflicting on themselves. So we have not seen that yet.
No,
we haven't physically
right.
seen.
So again, that's part of the mystery, which I think is part of the fun. What I love about this whole interaction
What can you
between
give us?
So cute.
Claire and Nicholas, right? Look at them.
We're hungry. Give us information.
It's really complicated, right? Because we all know, everybody on the planet knows what it's like to have a bad day at work, to think you're going to lose your job, to be afraid that you're not going to have a livelihood or be able to support yourself or your family or your loved ones. Everyone knows what that's about, right?
Yeah.
And so we see really clearly that he's going through this space that his wife isn't really interested in. Right? That doesn't necessarily excuse his behavior, but I think watching it as a viewer, and that's the other amazing thing, right? Because all of these other artists and people come in and do stuff. I'm sitting there on the couch too. We've talked about this. I'm sitting there every week. I'm in tears.
Right.
And I read
too.
the episode. I
Me
knew
too.
the outline. You know,
Like, I make myself cry.
it's so
Really?
it's really incredible.
The stuff they
You
write.
cry watching your own performance?
Listen, that scene you guys wrote in the den when she's acting like she's gonna help me out and she goes, it's your fault.
Yes, right.
And I'm like, I just want a family. I just want a happy family.
It's
It
amazing.
breaks me.
It breaks
Because it's
me
not
too.
me.
Yeah, what
It's
you said.
anybody who wants,
Yeah.
who just wants to be happy. And she came from
Yeah.
another country and she thinks she's gonna be happy with this family, and it's just not happening. Like I'm like, oh.
Yeah, and I think again, just like this is the magic of the show because we I wrote these words, right? They filter through John. They filter through these actors. We've got this amazing director, Ramsey Nichols, who did this episode. He did a great job.
He did.
And then it gets edited, and there's music, and like I didn't see the final cut till last night, so I don't know what the impact is going to be of all of these elements.
right,
and
right,
suddenly I'm
right.
sitting there too, and I'm like,
Right.
I just
It's
can't
a
take
lot, yeah.
it.
What is
It's a
that
lot.
like? Seeing
It's
your
a lot.
words
I
come
just-
alive like that?
Oh,
I want to.
it's amazing.
And we're gonna get to that real quick. I just want to say from Ankle Chan 200, it can be that Claire is either being abused by her husband and Claire's abusing Gabrielle. And wow, I kind of thought that too, because we're seeing Claire now try to take hold of her life. She's put Gabrielle in the attic, I guess, which was so
Basement?
bizarre.
Sewing room.
Bizarre
Yeah, the
attic or
sewing
whatever.
room, yeah.
Moved her, saying that she needed more room. So obviously these insults and stuff that Nicholas is saying to her is getting to her. And to me, I'm just like, do you want to be a stay-at-home mom? I'm
Right, right.
I almost want to say to Nicholas, do you want this life? 'Cause you think it's easy
Right.
life, but
Well,
is this what you want?
I don't think he does because his business is failing. I feel like he needs help, and she used to work there, and I think he's very resentful of the fact that she's appearing to just not have to put in any work in his mind. She
But
put in a
does
lot
he
of work
not
as a
want to
stay-at-home
work?
mom.
Does he not want to work anymore? Because she hit him in his gut when she said the comment. When she said to him, "I told her that it was your fault that we didn't have the baby, because you couldn't do the one thing that a man is supposed to do."
And what a low blow.
That was, I thought that he was
That
gonna
was
punch her
super
right
low.
there. But
Was that
again,
fair? Was
again,
that
we
fair?
talked about the roles males play in our society,
Right.
and we talked about a little bit last week how whenever there is a stay-at-home dad, there has been studies to show that females, the wives don't want to even sleep with them anymore. They want to sleep with them less. Their eyes start wandering. So this role reversal, what exactly is Nicholas trying to get at? Is he unhappy with his role right now, or is he still harboring some resentment that he couldn't fulfill his part as the man and have this baby? Like,
That's what I'm starting
see
to
all
feel,
of this
but I
come
don't know
together.
because I don't even read the other people's parts when I get the script. So I'm discovering this stuff. Like I'm starting to wonder if Nicholas is not just mad at himself and then like taking it out on Claire.
Well, we certainly had the scene in the episode before where he was talking to the other white guy about,
Yeah.
about feeling oppressed.
Right.
As a
Right,
man who's
right.
trying to provide.
As a white man, I'm oppressed.
I know.
I was trying to garner a little empathy for him, but you guys weren't having it. Like, can we be
we
empathetic
weren't.
for him?
Sure, I say yes. Why not? I mean, I think for us in writing all of these characters, every time I sit down to do a scene, and I know that because John had his outline, I know it's got to be these people. I'm channeling those people each individually. I'm like, well, where's she coming from, and where's he coming from? And I started my career as an actor, so I'm like doing all my acting stuff. I'm reading the lines out loud at home, and and it's all filtered through that conversation. So we know what that desperation is like. We know how that person enters the scene and what they're trying to do. And one of the things that John says, which I think is just brilliant, he said this on the first day, I'll never forget it. I don't even know if he remembers saying it, but he said, on this show, there are no villains.
Right. Yeah.
There are just people who are trying to do the best in sometimes horrible circumstances.
I can agree.
That's the
I
way,
get that.
that's the
I
way he
agree
looks
with
at
that.
every character
I like
on our
that.
show.
You have to kind of look at them in a silo, kind of separate from the other
like that.
characters. And if you
Yes.
do that, I think you can have empathy for each of them.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
I love how Timothy tried to like have this one shot at Claire where he said that she's being abusive to him by not letting him in on stuff. And
It's abusive.
to use such a strong word just to get some information from her friend. I know we're talking.
So
in the
wait,
link
you don't think
about
that
this.
he
is
was
it not-
genuine and feeling
That's
that
how he
way?
feels.
I was gonna say,
That's
isn't
his
it not though?
feelings.
Like,
It's just the victim. I have a real big problem with people playing into these victim roles, and I'm sorry, he's the least of a victim.
But you're looking at
in
it through
this
your
situation.
eyes.
Yeah,
Right,
you're right,
yeah.
and that's
You're
the
in
only
his
eyes I
shoes.
can look at it through.
Let's
I can't
all-
look at
Place
it.
yourself
Let
in
me
his
listen.
shoes, though.
let's all stop speaking
I'm a-
English and we all speak another language, the three of us, and you don't understand.
Right. Right.
Have you ever been in that situation?
Would you feel like
I have.
Yeah, when you go out of the country, you're in
Well,
that
no,
situation.
but with people I know, and I'm feeling like, why would you do that? Why,
Why
why would you keep me out? You
Well,
know?
this is the fascinating thing too, because I heard you guys talk about it last time too. Every time we do the thing with the subtitles sometimes.
Yeah.
And every time we do
I
that,
agree.
and I'm live tweeting, people
I'm
get
so glad you-
They're
livid.
so
They get
mad.
so angry. They're
Yes.
like, "Why are you doing that, American Crime? I'm so mad at you." And every time I tweet, like, this is exactly, we're trying to put you in the position of
Right.
people who come to
I
our
love it.
country
Thank
Yeah.
who
you.
aren't able
This show is
to.
amazing.
For shedding the light on that. Thank you.
You guys are
for bringing
amazing.
that
I
up.
love
And
it.
people hate it. It's like exactly
think
that's
it's
You
what
like
they
that
want.
shit though, right?
I personally do. Yes.
I love it.
Yeah.
But listen, I think I definitely see that maybe Nicholas, Tim Hutton's character, he's definitely, I think, feeling like a failure because in two ways. His business is failing,
Yes.
or maybe three ways. His marriage is failing, and he had now we find out he had a failure as a man to be able to help create a child. So feeling like a failure like that as a man or anybody, but I can only speak
Yes.
as a man, but it definitely can
Of
bring
course.
a lot of feelings up for you. Definitely.
Yeah. And what's
Yeah.
it like to be in that house as the man of the house with a child who's not your child?
That you
Right.
did not want.
That you
And we're
didn't
just
want.
finding out this information.
Exactly.
Because I was like, why is he so hateful towards the child? And now we're seeing, America, how can you just give it all to us at once?
Just drop a binge watching season
They're
for
like,
us.
here you go. Next episode.
I know. And then wait a year.
I'm like a little bird, open my mouth, feeding. But yeah, guys, we'll come back to this if we have time at the end. But we're gonna have to move on and talk about a little bit about Shay and Kamara's character, Kamara's character, because they were very important characters in this as well. So Shay is trying to get her life together, and y'all know how I feel about Shay. But honestly, in this episode, she was really trying. I saw an effort.
Yes.
Which is, I love that. Just seeing her, like, even though it was still kind of the wrong decisions, she's still doing the webcam and stuff. I saw that she at least wanted some type of change. She was doing the webcam, but she was doing it with this couple who, had one disabled wife, and she was kind of helping them out in a way. And I love that about Shay. Why is your face looking like that?
not that episode, but that scene was surprising to me. I didn't expect that.
Yeah.
It just,
And I try to figure it out. Like I don't get it. But were they clients? Because at first,
Yeah.
the relationship they had at first, I thought maybe it was like a brother or something. I'm like, where'd this guy come from? This brother that she's been talking to. But it was clients.
Yes.
apparently.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then, but I guess she's used to serving the lady in the wheelchair,
Yeah. That
Which-
was her position.
which is like, whoa.
Yeah. So this again goes back to the brilliance of John. So originally that scene was not in there. Like we knew the webcam house and all that stuff. We had some client stuff going on, and John found an article.
Oh my God, I love him so
New
much.
York Times, Washington Post, something.
That is
and so I turned in a draft, and he was like, "Hey, I read this thing. There's this thing I want you to read." And he sends this because he does this all the time. So he sends out articles, and it's all about this webcam, this woman who makes her living, as a webcam person, and it's fascinating what this woman says in this article, and I forget, it's the Washington Post, the New York Times, something. She talks about how the way they make their money is not by just the sexual stuff.
The talking.
It's the talking. It's like if they can find the way to step into the space of therapist and make friends with people, then those people want to come back more and talk more and and stay on the phone longer and pay more, and that's the whole thing, So we were folding that in, with the notion of how can, who is it that Shay has this connection with, where it seems like they're friends, and
Right.
yet there's this other space that is part of what's going on, but not maybe the whole thing. And that whole sense of service is what gets her those 500 tokens
Yeah.
at the
Yeah.
end of that scene,
Yeah.
and that's where she's trying to make a living.
Right.
And I enjoyed sprinkling in of those little scenes about, you know, trying to see Shay do something, I guess, good. Because I guess that's why they showed
trying to be
those
of
little
service,
clips.
yeah,
of some sort.
Yes.
But I don't understand why the shelter wasn't a great option for her. It's like legitimizing your life, you know, for your baby and stuff. And maybe you would have still been alive, you know?
Yeah.
But she wasn't
It's
making
really
money
sad.
at
I'm
this
kinda
shelter.
She wasn't
sad now.
making money.
She wasn't making money at the
Kinda
shelter.
sad.
And she wanted to make money.
But they would have took care of her baby. They weren't just gonna throw her out with the baby and stuff like that. That's my thought frame.
yeah.
I don't know.
She wasn't seeing it that way.
Yeah, she
Or
did.
Shay.
She didn't have control, you know, all of that stuff. She wants to feel independent,
Like
like
she's
we all
taking
do.
care of
Like she's
herself.
taking care of herself, like she can make her own choices.
But let's have a plan. So, R.I.P. Shay.
You're such a shader.
We can't stay too long on Shay, but like that came from nowhere.
I did
don't know.
not see that coming.
Her
I
being-
thought she got hit in the back, like with a
Was that
fist.
a tweezer?
It looked like a
she
nail
get
file.
It was a nail
With
file.
a nail file?
I could.
I want to go out like saving a baby or something, or you know, getting
Don't
a
we all?
cat, you know, just a
Right.
hero. But
Yeah.
Did you think she just got hit with a fist? That's what I thought. Like she just got hit in the back, but then
That-
it was lingering a little too long, and then finally it showed what it was. But that was.
And I feel like there has to be a reason that they killed off Shades. So they just like this. There has to. I want there to be.
I
a
think
reason.
ultimately,
she was pregnant.
ultimately, you know, look, the reason. I mean, we're talking about a mirror of the world, right? So it's this. So part of what we talked about in the room is Shay thinks she's going into this safe space that is less violent and less dangerous than her life, you know, hooking. And it's not. It's not a safe space. And so, you know, as long as she's making choices in this box, she's in danger. And she
Right.
doesn't realize that. And I think we as an audience don't realize that. And that's what happens.
This is such a great show, and I'm sure some parents are kind of hesitant to let their children watch a show with this much like graphics in it, but I think it's so important for children to see that. Like when we're young, you're young. I don't know. You feel like you're young for so long,
Right.
And you
Forever.
feel like you
You're
know it all.
invincible.
That's right.
You can make it through anything, and I know what's going on, but you don't.
You
and there
really
are
don't.
people that you can listen to
Yes.
make better decisions.
Right.
Like when you don't, even at this age, older adult. I'm not gonna put myself out there. As an adult, it's always great to have other people whispering in your ear, helping you out along the way. And I think this is a great example of that. Like if she would have listened, it didn't have to end up in a tragedy.
But it's
And
so
that's
hard
Kamara's
when
baby.
you're young
That's
like that.
Kamara's baby. We all wanted that.
Everybody
to
wanted
Everybody
Kamara
wanted
to have
that.
the baby.
Yeah.
Why couldn't
I
she
did
have
for a
it?
quick second, but I was like, American Crime. It's not happening.
Yeah, I totally thought that was gonna happen.
Oh,
Did you guys
no.
consider that at all in the writers'
No
room?
way.
Well,
Everybody thought that.
First of all, John already had his outline, so we
Oh, that's
knew where
right.
we were
Yeah,
going.
okay.
And certainly, I think in the process of it, you know, certainly me and other writers too were sort of like, oh, well, that would be perfect. So all of the tweeting that I saw, you know, where people were saying, Kamara better get that baby. You know, and like,
We weren't the only ones.
You weren't the only
about
ones.
Kamara because I want something for her at the end of this.
Yes.
Cause y'all have me crying, and I just actually know. No, she has literally. Cause like I feel for her.
Yes.
We talked about this. Like
yeah.
I'm kind of in the same field as her. Just like you're relentless, tired, and you're not getting paid. There's no. It's not like you're in the.
There's
in this
no
position
the
to get
rewards
something
that
back,
we want. Because when
but
I was a
want
teacher, it's
something
like
for
people
her.
are like, oh yeah, but you're changing lives.
Right.
Yeah,
It's
but I
like,
can't
yeah.
pay my bills.
pay my
Exactly.
rent.
Yeah.
I can't go on
Right.
vacation.
That's right.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay.
You feel me? No, but I'm saying like let's talk about Kamara a little bit. And I just now noticed that she's wearing contacts in her eyes so we can't see Regina King's beautiful eyes. And to me, it really adds to like every time y'all go on a close up with her doing like a dramatic part, that's what makes me cry. And I just don't know.
But she got black contacts.
Her eyes are so dark, and whenever she does that, though, when she's having a one-on-one, especially, and she's talking, I noticed that they do it right in her face, and I was like, wait a minute, but it adds such a subtlety to those scenes that because you just really feel it for some reason. Just her eyes being that dark and plain
Really?
that you're
It doesn't
looking
even
into
like.
Wow.
the depth of
I
it
didn't
is
realize
just-
that.
the depth.
I didn't realize
She had
either,
a different,
You didn't realize
different
that.
color
she
eyes
has
until
beautiful
people.
light eyes, yeah.
No, I knew she had
Yeah,
green
yeah.
eyes, but I didn't realize that she had contact.
Yeah, me
Yeah.
either until this episode, and I was
Interesting.
like, that's the thing that's been getting me
Yeah.
them eyes, and they're not even yours.
Right. Well, I think again, like to me, that's part of the mystery
subtlety.
because we hand, you know, in some level, we hand this material over to amazing artists like Miko, and then they do stuff, You know, it's like, what? I didn't realize what, you know, I mean, they're doing all kinds of things that I wasn't aware of.
Yeah.
You know,
Maybe she's just kind of, does it indicate maybe that she's just kind of empty on the inside now from.
But that's the thing that I noticed. Like, I hadn't noticed it before, but seeing this scene where just noticing the close-ups on her, that's what I noticed was really getting me, how sunken her eyes look whenever she's talking about stuff. Then you can just feel the sadness, and that was kind of something that helped. I just noticed that. Sorry, but yeah, let's talk about Kamara.
Well, I don't think she's gonna get a baby now.
Abby, wait. We have Abby. We haven't seen Sandra Oh.
Right.
You haven't wanted to see Sandra.
I love
Oh.
Sandra. She's amazing.
And she came back with the bam. She was like, listen, let's take it down.
You know, and I'm all for, like, let's Robin Hood this shit. Like, I'm sorry if we can't cuss. But, like, I'm all for, like, doing for the good of the situation. But illegal, we really gonna go that route after everything that, I mean, they can't see what's going on in the episode. But, like, that's not the way we need to you go, like, because it comes back on you.
But it's a catch-22 though. I totally get it.
Does it? You know, that's
most of the times. My mom taught me. Hell no.
Right.
In this world, I mean, we have to see whether it does or not, right? And that, again, to me, that's like the kind of juicy tidbit that I'm tuning in to see. You know, I mean, I know what happens in the next episode, but you know, that's
he knows what happened, guys.
That's the juicy tidbit that I keep coming back with. You know, and even as I was writing those scenes, and you know, and again, I sort of knew what the outline was, but I was like, wow, this is really, it was crazy, you know, and so that made that scene that much juicier. The fact that I could see both sides, that John could see both sides, that we had talked about it in the room, that this, you know. One of the great things about working on this show too is that there are all these little pockets of research, you know. So we're doing research on webcam houses, we're doing research on migrant workers, we're doing research on social workers and funding and all that stuff, you know. And so we're calling people, and people are coming in the room, and I'm making calls and reaching out to people, and this stuff is real. Like, this kind of thing, this kind of space, these things are really happening out there.
It's so unfortunate that, and to be on Abby's, I see Erin, you're on Abby's side. She did make a lot of valid points, but I'm such a stickler for that kind of stuff. My mom's a detective. I'm so, like, straight collar. Like, I do everything, most stuff by book.
What would you have done?
So, like, and I hear you, but it's so unfortunate that they have to do all of that just to get funding. It's like a catch-22. It's like, again, we talked about running in the gerbil thing. So there's not enough funds to actually bring in to have enough staff to actually bring in those numbers. And so as I'm thinking from a governmental standpoint, what is their outcome? What is their solution for that? Like, so people don't have to lie about numbers.
I don't think there is one.
Is there a solution for that?
Because
to me, that's
right
common
now
sense.
in our world, I don't think there is one. And I think now I'm realizing, because this show does pair the life as it is so well, that sometimes you have to do stuff to get around the system.
We're not teaching that method.
Sometimes you have to do that.
But the stuff
Children,
that they're doing, it's not hurting anybody, really.
Sometimes, because it's being done
What
to you.
they're trying to do right now, like what Abby's doing.
And
it's not really hurting people.
Grew up in the church. I know it, always choose right, live a life of righteousness. But look, as I go through this world, I realize that, hey, sometimes things will be done to you, and sometimes you gotta do things. They weren't hurting anybody.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
But and ultimately, it was for the good. But there's ways that you gotta be sly and do what you gotta do to make things happen.
Now, the interesting thing about Kamara, though, in terms of her dilemma, is, you know, when she was sitting there with the funding guy, that really was her moment to say those numbers aren't real.
Right.
Once she's left that
meeting,
she was like, since she didn't say something, now it's harder. It would be harder if she were to, like, what choice is she going to make now? Because if she goes back, then she has to say, I didn't really tell you, and
she kind of was like, I haven't looked at the exact numbers.
Yes, she kind of did say that. Look out for her friend.
That too.
Okay, so then so she has these options, but again, like, we don't know, being in her position and watching it that way and feeling that way, as a lot of viewers do, we don't know which road she's going to take.
For you guys to see
It's just like, I'm just like, can we throw Kamara something, a lifeline or something? Because y'all just keep coming at her with just the drama.
Yes.
Can she get a happy ending, please? That's all I'm saying. Who's with me?
I think somebody might. I mean, because in
a
life,
husband,
there's a lot of bad things that happen, but then there's good things that happen too. So I'm feeling like in this last episode, somebody in one of these storylines is gonna get a happy ending.
I want Kamara.
Who do you think?
I don't know. I'm not gonna put myself out there and guess.
Okay.
Because that's the wrong thing to do. Because clearly you guys do well enough to keep us guessing. and not get the right answer.
They do.
Oh, come on, you're in that too. Don't try to play it off.
So since we're talking about happy endings, it looks like one character might get a happy ending. She's working really hard on it. Felicity Huffman's character. I cannot think of her name right now because
Jeanette.
I make her
Jeanette.
Jeanette. I know y'all give like little tidbits about Jeanette. Little tidbits about Jeanette, and I'm wondering is she gonna be the whole thing to tie everything in? I'm trying to figure out Jeanette still, but she's trying. We have
trying.
another case of trying.
Yeah.
And she's just her oblivious again. She's just you just think you're gonna walk into a job a place and ask for a position and be like I have no experience.
Was that heartbreaking?
Which it is hard because it's real.
Because it's real. Because
It's
we've
real.
all done that,
People-
right? Haven't you? Because
my
look,
God.
when I knew I was going to write those scenes, I've had so many of given the kind of work that I do, which is always freelance and always shifting and always, I've had so many of those experiences where I go in for the job. I'm like, hey, I'm well educated. I'm blah blah blah, and they're like, well, you don't have
You're
this.
not
You don't
qualified.
have
You
that.
might qualify for president, but
Right.
other than that,
Right. No, but seriously, so that whole space, I'm so excited to see the realization of that scene and what Felicity did, and just the way it was shot. Like it's heartbreaking.
It is.
and it's such a simple moment where she's just like, "Can I just?" And it was like, "We
And
got
then, like,
nothing for you."
What gets me is those 24 years though. Like
24 years of your
years.
life.
That's right.
Like it stayed
Like it's
with me,
nothing.
right?
Yeah.
And then she goes to be on her own, and she has
Nothing.
nothing.
I love when she opened the pamphlet to see the cost of classes, and that's exactly how
she
you
closed
feel.
it back
Your
and
whole
then-
world.
this?
Well, I
Yeah.
want to better myself. I want to get me an education. I want to do some other things with my life.
Right?
All my life savings and
Yeah.
then owing some, close that right. But that's reality.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm still there harassing me.
Yes.
Right.
You said I'm not going to talk about that because we're going to talk about that all day. But yeah, her character it's really crushing. But I'm hoping that there's a way that she can even see the struggles living with her sister, seeing that you can overcome struggles. Doesn't matter what you've gone through. I know she said little shots towards her, which she might have not thought were little shots about her, but. Still, look, her sister has a life. Now you're living with her. You know,
Right,
you
yes.
can overcome anything. So right now, yeah, this might seem like the worst moment in your life, 24 years down the drain, but you can get back on your feet. It's going to be hard.
Is this the sister that stole from
Yes.
the
Yeah.
family?
Yeah. But that's
only
who
got
she's
one.
living with. Yeah, she
Yeah.
only has
Right.
She only has the one. Okay.
Yeah.
We see her in next week's episode. Looks like she's in an orange jumpsuit. The sister.
Oh, well,
Did you
I
see
didn't
that,
see
the
next
preview?
week's episode, but
Am
thanks
I
for
wrong?
telling
Did
us
I see that
everything.
in-
No, the
I don't know.
preview
Did you
in
see
the
that?
preview in the
Yeah,
trailer.
Yeah, for the next episode. Was
I
she
didn't see
in?
the trailer.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe.
yeah.
Oh, come on.
Can we
Look
talk
at
about
that.
next week? Next week.
They could be reminiscing about her former life when she
Exactly,
was
who
a drug
knows?
addict.
Yeah.
Okay,
Never know
sure.
what's gonna
JJ
happen.
tries to jump the gun all the time, but we will talk about next week's stuff next week. But I really want to get to talking to our
Oh, the
guests.
750.
What happened?
Oh,
750. Jeanette
750.
was
Yeah,
like, she was
I know. She was like 750.
That's
Yeah.
reality.
Right, it is
That's,
reality.
that's another storyline.
Heartbreaking.
Like, how are people supposed to live on 750?
Exactly.
How are you
Anywhere.
supposed to live on 1050 in California?
Is it 1050
You tell
now?
me that. Yeah, that's the minimum wage in
Oh,
California.
It's ridiculous.
No,
Yeah.
it's more than ridiculous.
Yeah.
When I think about families who actually, in the field that I work in, being a direct support professional, literally that's what people get paid. Starting minimum wage is $10.50, and these are people with families.
right.
I'm like, how do you sleep at night
Yeah.
So
when you sign the checks?
here's a question, this is a legitimate question coming from curiosity.
Okay.
Being you talked about being a teacher and not being able to live off the way you talked about being a social worker, not being able to live off it. Why get into it if you know that could be the case?
I didn't realize that teachers were not
I'll
paid
let you
what
talk
they
first.
deserved. First of all, that's first of all, okay, and that's
to
the
get
most of
JJ.
it. I didn't know. If I had known, honestly, I might not have gone into it. And I just fell into it because when I was a nanny, the family that I came here to live with, the dad was an amazing teacher of the year and all of that stuff. And it's almost like you grow up in a family of actors and hey, you become an actor because
Right.
it's just natural. So teaching came naturally to me. So I never thought, how much y'all make? You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
never thought
go
that.
into it
I was like,
for
I'm gonna go to
yeah.
college. I'm gonna work hard.
yeah.
I'm gonna be a teacher. I'm gonna get
Right.
a job. Okay.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, teacher.
I mean,
what?
my parents
ahead.
are teachers. They're both retired teachers.
Okay.
And they made it work. So I think in certain circumstances for certain people, I don't know how they made it work because I wasn't sort of like watching them as they did it. But look, I think that the bottom line is, because we could say this, we could go down the line here, right? Anybody who's ever wanted to be anything artistic, a writer, an actor, a director, a musician, we all know what it's like to take work that doesn't pay really well, because in our minds we've got this path that we're heading toward, this goal, and there's well, by the time I get to blah blah blah, it's gonna be, I'm gonna blow up.
Right. Yeah, we're always thinking in the best terms.
Cool. And so people volunteer, people intern, people. All the time we do this. We see this. This is us. This is people in our families. Yeah. So again, it's one of those universal questions.
And for me, it was the field that I work in is not a field that's desired. So there's always opening positions. So when I was looking for a job, I was like, out here, waitress and stuff is almost a competitive job out here. So when I fell into it, and I loved it. Honestly, I love it. When I think about leaving my kids, my clients, it makes me sad. I get, because I'm like, no one's gonna watch out for them, because I see the other people that work there. Because like I said, they're just taking people. They're just literally taking people who apply.
Right.
So when I think about that, when I think about one day, and even my clients say, they're like, Erica, what are we gonna do when you're not here one day? I'm like, because y'all already know. I swear it's like God speaking through them. They're like, what are we gonna do when you're not here one day? And then that worries me. And that's been one of the things that has kept me there constantly at this one job that I know I should have been gone for a long time ago.
I used to feel like that, yeah.
Because I'm like, I love my clients. Like, you get so involved with your students and who you're working with. It gets beyond just being a job. Oh, yeah. This is like your family. Like, I've been off for a week for
I call them my kids.
I miss them,
It's my kids.
Those are my kids.
I don't care. Some of them have kids. It's my kids.
Exactly.
My kids,
exactly. And that's where you get to that headspace, and it gets really hard for you to just be able to be like, well, they're not paying me enough, or I could just leave. Well, what about, that's not their fault.
Right.
And in the field that I work in, it's like a revolving door. I've seen so many people come in and out, and that's not even good for the clients.
Oh, yeah.
They need that
teaching too,
that constant, the same people in their face, not like different people. Oh, who is this? Who is so-and-so? No, they don't need that.
And this is the other hook too for Kamara, because Abby's basically saying, look, you help me do this, I get more money, I can hire you and pay you more.
She tried to give her.
You still wouldn't go along with the plan?
That was so brilliant.
It was so
you wouldn't go along with that plan? You wouldn't go along with that plan if that was the case? If that was laid out to you?
But to me, in my head, with that whole situation, I always feel like whatever you do in the dark comes into the light. So they set up the situation. It happens, and it goes well for a little bit. But somebody finds out, and all the houses get closed down.
I don't know if that's always the case.
Maybe.
But I'm saying, this is something in the back of my head. Things like that do happen, and that's why I say there are ways that you can get it done without taking the crooked path. That's all I'm saying. That's it. That's all I got.
Well, my question in that scene was, why didn't Abby tell her ahead of time, though, that was going to happen?
Because she knew that Kamara was going to be like, hell to the no.
And then why didn't she tell her about the job potential at the beginning of the conversation that they were having, too?
We're going to continue
why did she save that?
JJ, we're going to continue this conversation on Twitter with JJ and on YouTube. If y'all want to finish this, I really want to chat with our guest, Steve Harper, who has came from American Crime. He's a writer on there. He writes actually for a lot of shows, Law and Order, All My Children. I'm sorry, you were an editor.
So I was. I've been an actor. I still am an actor as well as a writer.
The actor, a writer.
So the stuff you see on IMDb for most of my credits are acting credits.
What?
So I acted on Law and Order and All My Children.
Did you just shoot a commercial?
Look.
And I just shot a commercial.
Okay. And I love that, because you talked about bringing in that acting whenever you're writing, and you can really feel that in characters, because sometimes if a director, he's never acted before, he starts telling the actors everything to do. It's kind of weird. It's well, I'm an actor and I don't, my character,
that's right.
So it's nice to know that y'all do have that facet brought into it. There's actors in there that are writing these characters so they can actually feel the character, because being an actor, we feel.
And the writing's going to be better, because sometimes you get scripts
not saying that
writing
if you're not an actor, you're not a good writer, but
it helps. It absolutely helps. Yeah, it really inspires that whole muscle, and I feel like I'm doing stuff that I feel like as an actor, would this be juicy for me? And so
that's what I was gonna say. You give us those gifts, and you're like, yes.
And then to watch amazing actors like this,
bring
pick
it
up
alive.
and bring it alive, and tear it up. Yes. Unbelievable! I can't even tell you.
How was that transition for you?
Tell you.
Can you walk us through a little bit of the transition from being just going from being an actor to starting to write and stuff? Because a lot of actors, I feel like, they're being honed to start doing that. It's you need to start creating your own project. If you're not, then and you're like back in the 1950s.
Well, I think one of the things that
happens
happens with a lot of us is that, especially us, especially actors of color, people, and I see it all the time on Twitter, people will say, like, how dare they tell this story and not tell that story? And my solution is like, well, let me just tell my own story.
Yes.
Like, why am I sitting here on the couch with my feet up, throwing rocks at somebody who did the work to learn how to, So that, to me, that's the crux of it. I was acting, and then I started writing. I'd always been writing, but I started putting writing in the driver's seat, plays, readings of plays, and eventually, I'd gone to acting school and got a little tired of like living out of a box, going around the country doing regional theater, and I just wanted to put the writing in the driver's seat. Eventually went to playwriting school, and
I was gonna ask, did you go to
you went to playwriting? Okay.
How did you get to where you were getting paid for your writing?
That took a while.
Did it take a while?
That's what we want to know.
Right. Well, I mean, look, I moved to LA to get TV writing work. I'd already had an agent and a manager, which I got when I was in New York. And I'd graduated from the Juilliard program. That sort of helped me.
Were you fancy?
There, right? Little bit.
So
He threw that in there. I like it.
Juilliard. It's pretty good. Okay.
And then really learned how to take meetings and really study TV in a way that I hadn't before. And, I learned how to kind of open myself up to what the world of TV is. And certainly I was in a program called the CBS Writers Mentoring Program, which is an amazing sort of apprenticeship program for aspiring writers of color.
Does that lead into the CBS Diversity Showcase at all?
No, the showcase is separate,
okay.
but they're all like diversity efforts that CBS has.
Okay.
And I learned how to take meetings and how to write good scripts, and that led to better meetings and more meetings, which led to my first job. And
what was your
it's
first?
great. I spent 2 seasons on a show called Covert Affairs on the USA Network.
Yeah.
Wait.
Yeah, with Piper Parabo.
Yes, Piper.
Yeah. I saw some of your credits say executive story editor. What exactly does a story editor do? Because I saw you also do that for American Crime.
Yes, I'm executive story editor on American Crime. So there's sort of a hierarchy, and there's just like, it's just sort of a ladder. Like staff writer is the entry level position. So it goes staff writer, story editor, executive story editor, co-producer, producer, supervising, consulting producer, executive
so you're
producer,
at the top.
co-executive producer.
We get it.
Right. So it's a ladder thing.
You're at the top.
That's where I am in the ladder. I'm like a couple of rungs.
I lost the.
I'm a couple of rungs up the ladder, is what that means.
35th percentile, right?
Yeah, 34. Sounds good. Thank you.
But when I think about these storylines, I'm like, do you have anything to do with like how they piece them together?
We all do the same thing in the writers' room. Like if we were in a writers' room together and you were the executive producer and you created the show and you were a staff writer, we'd all be doing the same thing, which is all rowing in the direction of the story that you guys wanted and trying to come up with stuff from our lives that might contribute to the story to make it better. And we all do that.
Can y'all please have like a behind the scenes of y'all's writing room? I would love that as like a web series.
I know.
It's fascinating. There was one on the Sundance Channel.
Order.
It's fascinating to see like what goes on in the writing room. It's people think that the storyline and what we see on TV is the most fascinating part. No, I want to know what goes on in the writing room while y'all writing. Whose stories are? Oh man, that happened to me. Man, I got raped.
Well,
like how many hours is it? How many hours are you in there?
It depends on the show. John is super busy and super prolific, right? So he's got this show that just premiered on Showtime, Gorilla, and which is shot in the UK and features Idris Elba. And we were in our writers' room for, I don't know, 3 weeks, and he was like, I gotta go to the UK to do this thing.
Go to Europe.
Right. So we extended and had another week, and by then he had given us the outline. We knew who was writing what script. We spent some time with our other executive producer talking about how, because he left the room, I knew in my script I had to hit these 8 points. And he trusts us because a lot of us are playwrights, so he'd be like, playwright it up, do your version, I really want to see your version. And then he took off, and we, and then we had deadlines. Like my outline was due on a certain day. We all went home, and we're working from home. So for American Crime, our writers' room lasted 4 weeks. Super unusual. For the whole and then we were working from home. For Covert Affairs, we were in the writers' room for 10 months out of the year. Wow. So it's completely different because we didn't start with an outline like John did, where he knew everything that was happening. So the job in the writers' room at Covert Affairs was to figure out well, what's the next episode? And how do we get to blah, blah, blah? And we were all doing that together. John did a lot of that brilliant work before we even got there.
That's insane. That's so
Really?
fascinating. So you guys already
Bless you.
knew. You knew that Theo was dead and that Luis was
We
gonna
all knew
shot.
that, too.
Does that make it easier?
I
You
mean,
guys
some
already
things we
knew.
didn't know. Like the shooting was that was different. That came later.
Wow.
I know that we have to wrap up, but I really want to talk about, there's something that you do call Your Creative Life, and I think
yeah.
that's so great that
Cool.
I love seeing people give back. I mean, because in this industry, you have so many people that's just like, once I make it, I'm on, and I'm popping, whatever it is. But I love seeing people extend a hand and try to help people out. So can you give us tell us a little bit
Yeah, I
about
would love to. So as I said before, my parents are teachers. They're both retired. They're very much people who give back. And I learned so many things on my way to where I am right now that it took me a long time to learn, because it's really hard to say, well, how did you get, and what do you, and we get a lot of sort of shady answers, or try this, or blah blah, or nobody knew, or people are like, get out of my face, or I'm too famous, I won't talk to you, whatever it is, right?
You get a lot
true.
of it, right?
And so I put together a bunch of stuff that I've learned. I read this amazing book called Coaching the Artist Within by a guy named Erica Jaye, and he is a psychotherapist and a PhD, and he created this idea of creativity coaching. And I read his book. I thought it was amazing. And at the end of the book, he says you could be a free client for one of my coaches in training by sending me an email here, or you can come train with me to become a coach by sending an email here. I was like, oh, I want to know how to, So I went to coach training school, something called the Creativity Coaching Association, and over the course of several years took coach training and then hung out a shingle. I have a website, and now I specifically help writers, but I've helped artists of all kinds navigate the industry and figure out how they want to move ahead and do it with like peace
dropping
and
gems
love
on
and
After
joy, open-heartedness.
Where do I sign up?
We're dropping gems on After.
YourCreativeLife.com. Yeah.
Thank you
YourCreativeLife.com?
so
Yeah.
much.
Because-
YourCreativeLife.com. I'm going to check it out as soon as I leave here. I actually kept it up on my one of my.
I just
your
love the
tab,
quotes
on the
that you be
browser.
tweeting.
Yes.
And the advice, because I'm into that stuff. I'm like, look at him.
We
I
really
love
need
that,
because
yeah.
so many people in the industry who have made it to a certain level, I think some of them are afraid to
Stuff,
give
yeah.
knowledge because they're afraid they're going to lose out on something by doing so.
And that's
you know?
not the way.
No, we
Yeah.
should all win.
We should
We
all
can
win.
all win.
And we can. And thank you so much, AfterBuzzers, for hanging out with us. We're going to
Yeah.
wrap it up. And I'm so happy to have these guests in house. And we will be seeing
You guys
this
have been
weekend.
great.
She's our
You
honorary
guys both
host.
should come back.
So you can
Yeah.
find me on all social medias at Erica Jaye Green.
Hey guys, you can find me Joshua Johnson on all social media at JJ the Talented, and I want to also give a special shout out to our live chat viewers. We didn't really get a chance to get to you today, but we saw you guys keeping
We
our live
see
chat
y'all.
lit. It was a lot
What's
of
up,
action,
Aaron?
activity, but keep the conversation going on Twitter, Instagram, all the social media. Okay.
People like, help me. Where's the sign up?
One more time, guys. Where can they find each of you?
Instagram at the French Black Girl.
Twitter at Harper Creates and at YourCreateBeLife and at YourCreativeLife.com.
Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Come back next week. We'll be talking all things episode 7, and we have another guest.
That's the finale.
No,
No,
not the finale. Sorry.
One
We should
more.
all come back for the
Seven
Sorry,
and then
sorry.
8.
Listen to JJ.
2 more episodes, people.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.